Errol Spence fights at 147, but that is not his natural weight. He's a really, really big guy. And I think that has ramifications on the toll that it takes on his body. But I want you to listen to Errol Spence tell you the same thing.
If I just eat just gorge myself, I can get to any fighter can get 20 pounds higher on a weight class. It's not our natural weight class when we're coming down to. It's not natural for me to come down to 47. So it's hard for anybody, to make that weight. It's hard for me to make 147. It's not my natural weight. I'm a grown man. It's hard for me to fight at 140. I mean to go down to 147. So it's hard for anybody. That's why I said, I don't play that in as a factor of him making weight because it's hard for me to.
I fully agree. Well, it's hard.
Now, because Errol Spence, in between fights, balloons up in weight because he drinks a lot, he's a known alcoholic. I mean, it just is what it is. That's a fact. That's why he was in the car accident. He has to butcher himself during training camps, but don't take my word for it.
Like I said, I've been training. I've been in the gym for probably March. I've been in the gym since March, late March, and we just been working and training hard and just being 100% focused. So I was just this training camp. I was just in the gym 24/7. I dedicated basically everything just to come back and get back, and I knew I had to be just focused and go back to what I used to do and being in the gym all the time and being actually a gym rat and not just going to training camp when I got a fight coming up and actually just being there and being ready, when I got that call. So, this training camp was a little bit different. It was like back in the day where I was already, I didn't have to lose 30, 40 pounds. I was actually in training camp, training for strategy and things like that instead of, trying to lose weight and going to the gym knowing I got to lose, this amount of weight. I was actually, already on weight and just, focus on strategy. Whoever I fight next is going to be in trouble because I'm keeping my weight down now too. So I'm going to have way more energy. I'm standing around 160.
Your accumulation of Spence, be drinking a lot and ballooning up in weight and having to go to training camps and lose 30 to 40 pounds. And he's 31 years old, I think has taken a toll on his body. And even though physically he's still strong, he's able to absorb the blows, his power is dead at the weight. If you go look at him early in his career, he was a knockout artist. And, at this weight, he don't carry the power. It would be like Mike Tyson fighting at middleweight. Yeah, Mike would be able to absorb and walk people down, but he wouldn't be able to carry the power that he had at heavyweight. And I think that's what's going on with Spence. Listen to Danny say it's his physicality, not his power.
But, Errol's not the biggest puncher, but he's strong. He's the strongest. Him and Peterson felt like the same type of body strength. Peterson was really strong, too, like physically. Like, he couldn't punch, but he was strong.
So, it's funny.
Now that I gave you a breakdown on who Errol Spence is, physically, now let's get to the mental side. Mentally, Errol Spence and his trainer are a genius in film study, coming up with great game plans. But you don't have to take my word for it. Check it out.
One of these highlights. Tell us what you saw here, what was going through your mind. I know Derek James was coaching you quite well. This is the round 4 knockdown.
Yeah, we seen in previous fights that he was trying to go for the overhand and that he'll lean in a lot. So when he leaned in, we just waited for him to come up because he had to come back up. When he came back up, I met him with the left hook.
And here is the next round.
See how he was ducking? He kept ducking. Go to the body. Bam, right there. See, he kept ducking. Every time he ducked, cut off. Every time he ducked, I met him with the left hook. Because we seen that in the camp. We seen that when he fought Manny Pacquiao. And we seen that when he was fighting Amir Khan, that he'll duck, and then he'll come back up. And his eyes will be looking down. A lot of time fighters, they'll be looking at the floor when they duck instead of looking up at their opponent. So I just caught him with a blind punch that you didn't see, and that's the ones that hurt the most.
Your trainer, Derek James, has prepared you well. You came...
Like with game, if you watch Mikey Garcia, like a lot of times, he jump in with his punches. Or he loads up with his right hand. So easy step back with a jab can offset that. And that's something that, we just broke down and just learned in camp. And, my coach made it to my attention. And, we just followed the game plan. It worked out well.
Like I said, these two are geniuses together. Derek James is really, really smart, and he trains Errol Spence very well and comes up with good game plans. But he also has built in a flaw in Errol Spence, and I'm gonna let him tell you the flaw that everyone sees. It's obvious to anyone who knows boxing.
I can be timed with bow, bow, bow. So your feet, it's different, right? Your head, I can time your head move. Dip this way, I can hold your head right there. Bam, dip that way. Bam, hold your head right there. So your feet, that's the difference. So you out of position, hold this, your body ain't moving at all. Just the head moving. You just like this. You hold my head right there. Put it straight right here. So, yeah, boxing evolved. Level of intelligence evolved. Yeah, you can move right there, but you're going to be out of position. What I'm saying, a jab or something, all of that. Yeah, okay. Target. Target. They don't know that. So, that's what I'm talking about. Now, I just showed you. Yeah, you just explained it. Yeah, you just... You understand what I'm saying? Oh, I completely understand. Bam! I thought jab miss you. Miss your jab, but that don't mean I can't control you with my hand. Your jab miss you, I still can catch you right here. No difference. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it is. You move your head, you're going to be out of position. You move your feet, you move your head, you're out of position to punch. You always got to come. You always got to come to the middle. That's all you can do with this. I can come here like this with my feet. I can punch. Side to side wherever I go. Yeah. That's the difference.
And half of what he's saying is true. Like here, he times Sean Porter's head and then catches him with a shot. So when it works. But when it doesn't, it doesn't. Right here, Sean Porter puts his head down and just throws the punch. Where the last place he's seen Errol Spence's head, he's not even looking and he catches him because Errol Spence doesn't move his head. Right here with Danny Garcia, he paused. He's trying to keep his hand on his head and time him. And he throws the shot. And Danny Garcia hooks at the same time and catches him upside the head. So when it works, it works. And when it doesn't, it doesn't. Because your opponent is going to throw his punch the last place he's seen your head. And if you don't move your head, he's going to catch you. I mean, it's common sense. Look here again. Throws the punch. Errol Spence over the top, doesn't move his head, and he catches him again. Right here, Sean jumps in. And then Errol tries to do what his trainer has taught him to do, which is put his hand on his head and try to time him coming in. And Sean Porter, again, head down, throws the punch where the last place he's seen Errol Spence's head and catches him. Okay, you might be saying, well, those are orthodox fighters. Let's see if he makes the same mistake with a southpaw. This is him fighting the last southpaw that he fought. Puts his hand on his head, tries to time him like his trainer has taught him. He's bought into that system, of not moving your head. And he comes up with a combination and catches Errol Spence with the punch, thrown at the last place he saw his head. That's the exact same combination Manny Pacquiao used to knock down Keith Thurman. The jab will be Errol's primary weapon in the Manny Pacquiao fight.
So that's what we was working on using the jab, setting everything up with the jab, and basically just outpointing him.
I noticed on film that Errol Spence pushes his jab. He doesn't really snap it out there. And he also telegraphs it before he shoots it. And if that's going to be a key for him in the Manny Pacquiao fight, it could also be his downfall. If you look here against Danny Garcia, look, he pushes the jab and lunges in with the jab. And for a veteran like Manny Pacquiao, that could easily be countered and timed. Errol likes to hold his right glove above his eye to catch your jab. Because he doesn't move his head, he catches the punches and counters. Right there, he catches Danny Garcia's jab, but watch the elbow, telegraphs. Elbow goes out, he knows the jab's coming, he gets out the way. Because veterans will pick up on little stuff like that. And he tries it again, puts his arm up to block the jab, no jab coming. Danny Garcia sees the elbow, gets out of the way of the jab. He knows the jab's coming, he telegraphs it. Right here, Manny Pacquiao is countering off the last southpaw. He faces jab. He counters him with the right hook over his jab. Manny Pacquiao had his timing down during that fight. That's the last southpaw he faced, Diaz, but he got his timing down. And look, right here, he just gives a little inkling right there, and Manny Pacquiao picks off that and throws a hook. and catches him while he jabs. So this could be a problem for Errol Spence, who telegraphs his jab and doesn't really snap it out there. He pushes it out there. Manny Pacquiao will come over the top of that jab with the right hand. It's not even a if, it's when. Another thing Errol Spence does is he bends in front of his opponents and brings his head to them. Like right here, he bent in front of Danny Garcia, and Danny Garcia catches his wide hook and then returns a hook. That could be a big problem with fighting Manny Pacquiao, bringing your body down to the shorter person, because Manny Pacquiao is going to let his hands go. He's not shy about letting his hands go. Right here, he throws a left hand and then a hook and then backs up. And of course, he fights much like Errol Spence. He comes forward because he's bigger than Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao invites him in and then tries to catch him right there with a check hook. Because he brought his head to him, like much like Errol Spence does when he goes to the body. He brings his head to the shorter opponent. Look right here. Manny Pacquiao picks up on his timing of his jab. He throws it, slips outside, comes over the top. That left hook, he will counter Errol Spence's jab. There's no doubt about it. Watch here. He gets in front of Manny Pacquiao. He didn't even get an inkling that he's going to throw the jab. And Manny Pacquiao picks up right there and hooks simultaneously and catches him. So if he did it for a person who doesn't telegraph his jab, imagine what he's going to do to a person that does. Notice when Manny Pacquiao throws, he doesn't wait for look, he's out of the range for the other person to punch. That's why the other person has to lean in. He gets in, gets his off, and gets out of range. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to do, look, he smothers the body shots. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it at this age that he's at now. He could do it in spurts. I don't know if he can maintain it for the whole fight, but I'm pretty sure, look, right here, working angles, hitting him with everything, and then not there for the receipt. He's out of the range. He's using the superior footwork, and I know he has to use it against Errol Spence, but I don't know if he could keep it up consistently. I noticed that in the fight with Keith Thurman that, he was shocked by Manny Pacquiao's speed. Look, the jab right there, jab pushes him back. He said Pacquiao had T-Rex arms, and it's a lot different seeing piranhas on TV than it is being with them. Look, right here, he throws a jab. Manny Pacquiao comes over the top, counters him, and is already out the way before Keith Thurman could even hook. His foot speed and hand speed was superior. Keith Thurman was shocked at Manny Pacquiao's speed in this fight. And I think Errol Spence will be shocked too, because he's not doing VADA testing. And that's a whole nother subject. I think he's overestimating his ability and underestimating Manny's, much like Keith Thurman did. But people who have to be set to punch, Manny Pacquiao showing glimpses of his old self, hitting him, not being in front of him, angling out. Every time Keith Thurman tries to pick his feet up and go plant in front of Manny Pacquiao, he keeps him moving, keeps him turning. This is the Manny Pacquiao of old, and he showed glimpses of this during the fight, but he couldn't maintain it. I noticed that he dropped off around round 5. Around round 5, Manny Pacquiao stopped using his footwork as much and started taking more chances, lunging in with shots and hands down, and that could be a problem with Errol Spence, like I said, who's a durable guy who's going to keep coming and coming and coming, and he's relentless. He's not like Keith Thurman. He's not going to let you just rest, because you're throwing punishment. He can absorb whatever you take, and he's going to try to dish it back. Spence will take advantage, like Keith Thurman did here, of Manny Pacquiao coming in reckless. I noticed that ever since Manny Pacquiao has gotten knocked out, he's become more cautious and more calm and more patient. He didn't come in reckless like he did when he was younger, trying to force his offense. But whenever he gets tired, like he did, past round 6 and 7, he takes more risks and he gives more counterpunch opportunities, which could be dangerous in the Spence fight. Notice this, Spence puts his right hand up high to block the jab right there, higher than his left. He anticipates the jab coming, and Danny Garcia moves. Much like Pacquiao, doesn't let him get set. Once he gets set, he picks up, ducks, and goes the other direction. And Spence bounces, anticipates the jab, puts his hand up again, and Danny Garcia jabs that hand just to draw his jab. And he parries it, and then he waits for Errol Spence to jab again, tries to draw his jab, he telegraphs it, and then he parries it again. Now Errol Spence has to turn his hips to try to get set to land those bombs. He jumps up in the air, and Danny Garcia turns southpaw and sends the jab right through his guard while he catches him while he's bouncing it in the air and not set the punch. And look at how he reacts to that jab. That's just a jab. And Errol Spence doesn't react that well to it. I don't think his punch resistance is the same since the car crash. Right here again, he telegraphs the jab, Danny Garcia parries it, and then shoots a right hand and catches Errol Spence. And look at how he reacts to that punch. Nice short punch. Look at how Errol Spence reacts when he's hurt. I think if when Manny Pacquiao, I don't think it's a question of if. When Manny Pacquiao hurts him, look at the legs. Like I told you, the legs never lie. He gets on his bicycle and, tries to play it off as if he's not hurt. And Danny Garcia doesn't recognize that he's hurt or he would have jumped all over him. But that punch hurts him. He doesn't have the same punch resistance. Here's another example. Errol Spence brings his head to Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia dips down and catches him over the top with a right hook and wobbles him. And Errol Spence is really, really hurt. And right here, he spits out his mouthpiece. He spits out his mouthpiece. Let me see if I can zoom in close and show you. Spit out his mouthpiece. You see the mouthpiece? Because he was hurt. He doesn't react well to punches now. And we've seen this before. Manny Pacquiao hit Keith Thurman with the hard body shot, and everybody was wondering what was going on. They thought it was a headbutt. And what does Keith Thurman do? Takes his mouthpiece out of his mouth. He didn't spit it out. So, like I said, it's deja vu all over again. I think stylistically, this is a bad matchup for Errol Spence. If this was 5 years ago, I definitely would pick Manny Pacquiao. But look here, early Keith Thurman throws that jab, and then Manny Pacquiao comes over the top with that strong right hook. So like I said, I think early on it's going to be all Manny Pacquiao. I think Errol Spence is going to hit him with a couple hard shots, but ultimately you're going to see flashes of the young Pacquiao coming out, keeping him moving, not letting him get set. But eventually he's going to have to slow down and sit in front of Errol Spence and have to be patient and calm enough to, let his punches go and not get reckless and careless. The last time we've seen these two in the ring with southpaws, both of them were about C class. Manny Pacquiao dominated his and Errol Spence was rocked by his. So I think experience will play a big part in this, that Manny Pacquiao is more calm, like George Foreman in his return, he has seen everything, and Errol Spence has not. He didn't have the experience that Manny Pacquiao has. So Manny Pacquiao has him in that category that he's going to be more calm and that, he dominated his southpaw, and Errol Spence did too for the most part, but he was also wobbled by his and Manny Pacquiao was not. So Manny Pacquiao has that edge going into the fight. But there was moments in that fight where Manny Pacquiao showed his age, because it doesn't matter. Even a young guy, if you're punching on a 200-pound heavy bag with everything you got, and then you do it for 3 rounds, and then you do it with a 300-pound heavy bag for 3 rounds, you're going to be more tired on a 300-pound because it's absorbing all your shots, and it's just, you got to pushing that big heavy bag around. It takes its toll on your body. But there were glimpses in this fight where Manny Pacquiao showed his age, where he went to the ropes and retreated back to the ropes and didn't throw a lot of punches. And both of them will be facing, ring rust. Of course, that's the obvious. But the ring rust doesn't affect power punchers much like it does, people who try to time you, which Errol Spence has admitted that's his style. If you go back and look, Mike Tyson was out of the ring, 15 years? George Foreman was out 10 years, and they came back in and picked up right where they left off. Manny Pacquiao fought Keith Thurman and looked that good, and that was off for a year and a couple months layoff because, like I said, the power punchers and the experienced guys, it doesn't really affect them as much. It affects them, but not as much as it will affect Errol Spence, because Errol Spence has been out of the ring for a while. And like I said, I don't think he's over the car wreck. But I'll let you into the mind of Errol Spence of what he thinks about ring rust.
Everything serious where, I can overwhelm, I can just not be discouraged by, me having ring rust and things like that. So, I feel like just working my jab and using my angles and boxing, was the best move, and that's what I basically did.
Judging by his last performance and him speaking like this, I don't think Errol Spence is over this car crash. And I just got to be honest with you guys, I got to keep it real with you guys. I don't think he's over it. It's impressive that he made the comeback that he had. And because Keith Thurman was in a minor incident and he was out for like a year and a half, and the damages wasn't even close to this. So for Errol Spence to go through this and be put in the hospital, you have to admire it, his comeback. But he doesn't have the same punch resistance. He doesn't take punches the same. Like right here when Danny Garcia caught him, The way he reacts to punches is not the same. Like even his facial expressions, when he was rocked against the southpaw versus being rocked here, it wasn't the same. Of course, Danny Garcia probably punches harder, but he'd even catch him flush. He caught him at the end of the knuckles. Because it's two southpaws, it's like it's two orthodox fighters. And Freddie Roach will have Manny Pacquiao use this move.
The right hand was coming at me, at him, straight again, and he landed the left hook. It's a time.
Danny Garcia pulls it out from the orthodox position. He drops the guard low, leaves the opening, and then hooks at the same time that Errol Spence is hooking and grazes and catches him. So, of course, Freddie Roach will be watching film and have Manny Pacquiao do the same move. If Errol Spence wins, it will be on points. It won't be because he finished him. Manny Pacquiao will give him chances to finish him, and he's a big, durable guy, but he won't do it. He won't pull the trigger because he didn't against Mikey Garcia. Check him out.
So I, went back to throwing my jab and picking him off, and then I tried to go get him again, and I just couldn't get him out of there. So, I tried to press on the gas, but it wasn't a man down tonight.
I can't help but to notice everything. But did you notice Errol Spence's eye? Is that nerve damage because of the car wreck? I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I just can't help but to notice stuff. But with all that being said, I think Spence will come out and give a good account of himself early, trying to hit Manny Pacquiao with hard shots to discourage him. But Manny Pacquiao will answer right back, and his quickness will deter Errol Spence from overwhelming him. But Manny won't be able to keep that up for the full round. But I think his experience will be able to bluff Errol Spence enough to where he could rest and continue it. So early on, I think Manny Pacquiao will take majority of the rounds and rest some rounds, and his experience will allow him to do it. And Errol Spence will come back in the fight and cause some excitement during the rounds, during the exchanges, forcing the fight to be a good fight, action-packed 9 through. Ultimately, I think Manny Pacquiao has the edge in this fight for the reasons that I listed, stylistically and fighter testing, et cetera, et cetera. So ultimately, I'm going to have to go with Manny Pacquiao to win the fight on decision because he's not stopping Errol Spence. Get that out your head. He's not going to stop Errol Spence. Well, while I'm at it, I want to tell you guys, if you're not subscribed to Real Talk Boxing, go subscribe to that dude right now, man. Not only has he actually been in a ring before, but he actually has an understanding of boxing, and he actually communicates with his subscribers. None of the other big channels do that. He sends shout outs. He's a great channel. He has great content. So if you're my subscribers, go subscribe to that man. But anyway, it's the Boxing Scholar, and I'm out.